Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 6:06, a good Tuesday morning to one and all. And thanks for tuning in to O'Connor and Company. Coming up at 6:35, we'll talk to Joel Rosenberg. He's editor-in-chief of All Israel News. He'll give us the latest news out of the Middle East. At 7:05, Sharon Pinkerton, Senior Vice President of Airlines for America, on what needs to happen with airline safety. And at 8:05, Dr. Robert Malone on RFK Jr.'s meeting with big food companies this week. I'm Julie Gunlock with Larry O'Connor. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning, Julie. I'm having some microphone issues, so I appreciate you introing the seg there, and thank you for covering for me.
So much cover up, so many cover ups.
Yeah, it's all everything's a cover up in this town. Thank you, and Patrice and Hans von Spakowski for covering for me yesterday and on Friday, as I am still with my family with the recent passing of my father, and I appreciate all the kind words everyone shared with me. It's great to be a part of this family here. You mentioned Dr. Robert Malone coming up at 8:05. We're going to have him sort of diagnose what's going on with our Secretary of Health and Human Services, because I'm sorry, I was voting for an RFK Jr. who just eats raw kale and downs, maybe some raw beef now and again. He just seemed like the type who would just take a handful of hamburger meat and devour it. No, this is the right way to eat it. This is
exactly.
What God intended. Yeah. But yesterday he actually not only met with various food industry leaders across the board that represent what I think many people would describe as fast food, maybe even junk food, snack food type thing. But then he ended his day eating at a fast food burger joint.
Look,
Steak and Shake. Well, let me get this straight. We can eat good food and be healthy at the same time. What's happening, Julie?
Well, Steak and Shake, I think, is one of these restaurants that just started cooking with beef tallow. So, I do love this idea that everyone's, oh my gosh, they're starting to cook with beef tallow. It's health food. Okay, people need to get a grip. I mean, I'm thrilled that they've gone back to beef tallow, but nobody got thin eating fries made in beef tallow. So, slow your roll here, people. You can. I'm going to go eat four orders of fries because they're cooked in beef tallow.
Exactly. I'm going to market the French fry diet.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Come on, this
yeah.
Is
I would be so good at it. I would be so good at that. But this is very interesting. I think this is kind of provocative that he's meeting with these, as you say, like big food industry giants, because he is thought of as, a lot of these activists in the food world are saying, RFK, he's going to destroy these food. Good. He's going to destroy big food and big this and big that. And, I think RFK has a real good sense of, look, we got to work with these people, these food industries. They put food on the grocery store shelves. They respond to consumer demand. And this is a good sign to me. It shows reasonableness on his part.
Well, and specifically, by the way, he met with PepsiCo, which does more than just Pepsi. General Mills. These are, cereals, snack foods, potato
cookies,
chips, that sort of thing. And they are focusing on this thing called GRAS, G-R-A-S.
Yes.
It's generally recognized as safe ingredients, right? And I know that, listen, I feel like an idiot trying to, lay this out because you have literally, the good portion of your career over the last decade plus, you've been focusing on these issues. I've read many of your articles about it, Julie. But what he said was that that he considers the generally recognized as safe ingredients is a loophole that these manufacturers have exploited that allows new ingredients and chemicals with unknown safety data. So if they're like tangentially connected to an item that's on the GRAS list, they say, well, this is probably recognized as safe, so we can use it. And so he thinks that there needs to be more transparency, more testing, and things shouldn't be approved right away. Here's my problem, and I get that. But Julie, I understand the profit motive and free markets and capitalism pretty well. And I've got to think that the reason that PepsiCo and General Mills and Kellogg's and all these other companies do what they do with ingredients is because it makes things less expensive and they can make more money.
Yes.
And so by going after these ingredients or by changing the way this is done, it may be healthier by some perspective or somebody's notion of healthier, but it's also going to make everything more expensive. And that's an ingredient here, if I can use that pun, that needs to be part of the conversation. Yes, we're going to eliminate this, we're going to eliminate that, and everything will be healthier. Okay, but how much more is it going to cost?
Right. There's often, in this sort of area, there's often these sort of, people throw out phrases like, well, I use preservative-free this and preservative-free that, and I don't want colorings, and I don't want this, and I don't want that. And there's no examination of what those things do. And for instance, in cosmetics, those preservatives keep your makeup from turning into a tube of bacteria that you then smear all over your baby's body. I mean, this idea that I only use natural things on my baby, there is a reason why my eyeliner or my mascara, it's been in my drawer for, probably 6 months. I should probably switch it out. But because it has preservatives, it's not creating, eye infections. The same with food. There's a reason why a loaf of bread can stay on your counter for a couple days. Okay, so again, when you remove these things, that means a loaf of bread is going to go stale or mold, probably in a day or two, maybe 3 days tops. So you're right that, and even with food colorings, everyone's like, oh, food colorings are evil. They're horrible. Well, again, these food companies look for any kind of edge out there. There's so much competition. So if they can make their cereal a little brighter, a little more exciting for a kid, they're going to do that. It's not all based on these people are evil and they want to poison their consumers. Also, there's not a lot of profit in killing your consumers. So, I do think that, look, I'm fine with some, let's look at the GRAS list. Let's do, again, this is also self-reporting that things are safe. Which I think consumers don't trust these companies. So maybe there can be a little bit more in terms of reporting and testing. But I do think that this shows that he's willing to talk to the companies about this and willing to not just demonize them.
Absolutely. Right. Exactly. And there, as usual with issues like this, there is a middle ground. And by the way, he demonstrated that last night on Hannity, a special edition of the show. We got to figure this out. How come we can't do our show while eating cheeseburgers and French fries? This is amazing. They went to Steak and Shake, and here's what RFK Jr. had to say while he was shoveling fries into his pie hole.
And Steak and Shake just switched out, and people are raving about these French fries. You taste them.
They're amazing. They really are. I'm not. This is not.
When I was a kid and I traveled in Europe, Europe is great. Always had great food. The French fries were always a disappointment because we had the best French fries here. They had pommes frites over there, and they just didn't taste right. Today, the best French fries in the world are in Europe. I order them every time I go to Belgium or France or any place else, and the French fries here just don't taste right. And you taste these, it's a completely different experience, and the customers are raving about it. Other companies, Steak and Shake has been great. We're very grateful for them for RFKing the French fries that turned me into a verb. But also Popeyes.
By the way, a plastic straw. Thank you. Thank God. I can't stand those paper straws.
All right, so there's some changes there, but again, it should be pointed out. He's talking about, well, when I go to France, a lot of people can't go to France. Julie, that's the man's a Kennedy. He's married to a Hollywood actress. Right. He's got unlimited. And again, I'm all with being healthier. I'm also all with there being choices out there.
Yes.
And if you don't have the bankroll that a Kennedy or a Hollywood elite has, and you can't go to buy organic all the time, and you can't go to France for the better French fries, or even Steak and Shake. Steak and Shake is lovely. It's also more expensive than, Mickey D's and Burger King. So we need to add that ingredient into the equation. All right.
Well, Larry, that is a good place to stop and get right over to Jamie Whitten in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
Meanwhile, we seem to have a measles outbreak that is now growing. For a while, it was really just in Texas, specifically West Texas, and then into New Mexico. And you think that this was possibly because of unvaccinated individuals crossing the border illegally, a ton of them in Texas, and that may be a contributing factor. But there's also been research that shows, Julie, that a big part of this latest measles outbreak, yes, is connected to people who are reluctant to get the measles vaccine, but not not who you think. It's a Mennonite community. Apparently, there's a large Mennonite community in West Texas. They have lately, historically, been very opposed to the vaccines, especially after COVID, because people feel deceived and they're very suspicious. And so this Mennonite community apparently had the first outbreak, and then it sort of starting from there. And it's reached Virginia, as Virginia health officials have now confirmed that an international traveler flying into Dulles on March 4th may have exposed other passengers. By the way, that would not be somebody who was from the West Texas Mennonite community. So as you keep hearing of this, oh, no, it's not people coming from other countries. It's a combination, and there are definitely people coming from other countries.
And I suspect we are going to see some major outbreaks here. Look, I know people are vaccine resistant, particularly after what they did to us during COVID, but the measles is not COVID, and the vaccine actually does stop the spread of measles. Get your measles vaccine. And I hope people aren't going to send me hate mail here, but look, this is extremely catchy. It is real, and it does cause death. I mean, there's a narrative, measles isn't that big deal. You just eat some chicken broth and drink some, ginger ale and you'll be fine. No, it is actually quite deadly, and it causes also like blindness and other issues. But I will also say there is a whole demographic of people who can't get the measles vaccine, and that's why it's important to vax. There's people who are immunocompromised, they're suffering from cancer and other diseases, and also babies, newborns don't get the MMR vaccine right away. So these are very vulnerable populations, can get measles if it's being spread. So, I don't mean to be too, much of a missionary here, but I really hope that people do get vaccinated.
If you're healthy, if your kids are healthy, and I've always listened, I am not suspicious necessarily of the vaccines. I am suspicious of the vaccine schedule that our kids are on at a very young age. I think that deserves some scrutiny and some discussion, and I believe that because of my own personal experience. Yeah. And based on professional health professionals I've spoken to, the reason we have the vaccine schedule right now is because public health officials think that parents in general are lazy and irresponsible. And so they say, well, when you get the kid, give them as many as you possibly can, because who knows if the parent is going to bring the kid back for their next checkup.
No, I
don't think the best way to have a policy.
No, I understand that, but and again, this is why I say, but measles is really, really important. There are a few of them that if you're going to examine the schedule and like polio, leave some out, and measles is one that you want to do. I do think also there needs to be more attention and more sympathy to the vaccine injured in this country. Among those who push for vaccines, there's this sort of like, let's not talk about those people. Let's not talk about vaccines. They do happen. It does happen. Right. And it's a risk, and parents need to understand that it is a risk when you get your kids vaccinated, and it's something that you should consider. It's low, but it does happen. And this idea that those people are just swept under the carpet and not talked about is terrible. And they also are not given, I think, adequate settlements. So anyway, there's lots to talk about in this vaccine world, but measles is dangerous. Get vaccinated. Get your kids vaccinated.
Meanwhile, I think sadly our public health officials are still sort of gaslighting us. It's going to take a while for protocols and policies to sort of focus on what's most important instead of politics, because I'm looking at this report. Tell me what's missing here. Virginia officials announced there was a confirmed case of measles at Washington Dulles International Airport last week. They're trying to track down anyone who may have been exposed to the highly contagious virus. The Virginia Department of Health on Sunday said that it was notified of the confirmed case and involved an individual returning from an international trip March 5th. Officials added that the potential exposure site includes Terminal A transportation to the main terminal and the baggage claim area, all in between 4 and 9 p.m. What's missing? What's missing? The country this person came from.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
What the hell is this supposed to mean? An international okay, if I was in Terminal A at Dulles on this day, that might be it. What if I was on the plane?
Right.
Why? And there's only one reason. It's politics. The only reason why our public health officials, they know exactly what this country, it's because they don't want to demonize people from that country.
That's right.
They don't want to make people who came from that country think, oh, well, they're disease-ridden, and and that's insane. If we're really going to be serious about public health and we want to give a warning to people, you don't keep that out of the notice.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
I agree. We've got much more to come. It is 8:06. What is wrong with me? It's 6:23.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 6:37 on News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. A good Tuesday morning to one and all. Coming up at 7:05, we'll talk to Sharon Pinkerton, Senior Vice President of Airlines for America, on what needs to be done for airline safety. At 8:05, we'll talk to Dr. Robert Malone on RFK's meeting with these big food company representatives yesterday. I'm Julie Gunlock with Larry O'Connor. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning, Julie. Look at you making sense of the news, all grown up. Thank you. And bear with my semi-wonky microphone this morning. I'm still attending to family matters, and thank you for all the good wishes for the passing of my father. It really means a lot to me. Thank you for reaching out, everybody. Joining us right now is Joel Rosenberg. He's a New York Times bestselling novelist. He's also editor-in-chief of All Israel News. Plenty to talk to with Joel Rosenberg, but I want to start with your book. First of all, Mr. Rosenberg, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Larry and Julie, and I'm so sorry, Larry. Please accept my prayers as well. I just lost my mother-in-law just 2 months ago, and it's a tough season of life.
I appreciate that very much, sir. Your latest book, The Beijing Betrayal. Now, this is a novel. It's a thriller, but boy, I read the synopsis here, and I'm sorry. Are you sure you're not cheating here? Because this seems like we're dealing with nonfiction here.
It does feel that way, and I feel like maybe President Trump has already read it, and maybe that was why he spent more time on China in his State of the Union address last week than on any other country aside from the United States itself. China is rapidly becoming our number one threat. Now, I still believe that Vladimir Putin is the most dangerous man on the planet because he's still the guy who's invading countries and killing hundreds and hundreds of thousands. Xi Jinping in Beijing is a serious evil man and preparing to attack Taiwan. The timeline in real life is 2027. And in the novel, The Beijing Betrayal, it's not years away, it's days away where Beijing is about to invade Taiwan. But simultaneously in the novel, Beijing is about to release a new and incredibly deadly biological toxin to kill millions of Americans in the days before they attack Taiwan, so that we're so paralyzed with internal grief and crisis that we can't respond in the Pacific. It hasn't happened yet. Let's pray it never does, but it makes for a good political thriller.
Well, and I'm sure that toxin really came from bat soup at a wet market somewhere, not from any lab. We're speaking with Joel Rosenberg. His book is The Beijing Betrayal. And so given that, Joel, you saw the president announce yesterday that we're having an additional 15% tax on China retaliated against us with 15% tax on products, farm products, including chicken, pork, soybeans, beef. First of all, how much of these products are we exporting to China? The trade imbalance is so enormous here that I know this is getting headlines, but is that really impactful at all?
No, not so much. I mean, generally, I am concerned more about the tariffs on Mexico and Canada. I think that could have an inflationary impact, which President Trump has to be careful of because. Right, he's got a 1 or 2 seat margin in the House. He can't go into 2026 with the economy not doing well. But when it comes to China, no, the trade imbalance is completely in their favor. And I think President Trump is wisely using tariffs and a wide range of other policies to start sending a very strong, firm, and clear message to Beijing. The days of the snowflakes running Washington are over. Like, this is just not going to happen. And whether it's the Panama Canal, whether it's Greenland, whether it's the fentanyl issues, and, of course, Taiwan itself, the president is setting out some strong markers that while he's focused on Russia, he's focused on Iran, and he's focused on Gaza, China is his number one focus.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned, who's the greater threat, China or Russia, right? I mean, it's the combination. China and Russia are increasingly allied with one another. And I think that is what's so scary. And what do you think about how is Trump tackling that? Not just, I know he's focused on Russia and he wants a peace deal and he wants sort of normalized relations with Russia as much as possible. And then it's sort of the same as China. But what is the strategy for facing both of these allied powers?
Well, it's actually worse than you say, but you're absolutely right that Russia and China have been building an alliance, and China is helping the humiliated Vladimir Putin, with all kinds of war material for crushing, pounding, and trying to destroy Ukraine and consume, devour Ukraine. But China is also building a 25-year strategic alliance with Iran, the worst terror regime on the planet. And China is supplying weapons to Iran that is actually, and to Hezbollah, which has attacked my country. I'm a dual U.S.-Israeli citizen. We raised our 4 sons here in the Virginia area for 24 years, and then we became citizens of Israel, and we're dual citizens. And we're really facing an onslaught from the Russia-China-Iran axis. The point is that what President Trump has done, and again, in the novel, The Beijing Betrayal, an American president is getting blindsided by all this. In real life, that would have been more Biden and Harris than Trump. Trump is not being blindsided. What Trump has done in the last 6 weeks is start with his friends, right? America's friends are not being friendly. I mean, they act friendly, but then they don't actually stand up and do their part. So that's why you see President Trump dealing with Canada, dealing with Mexico, dealing with NATO, right? And he's saying to them, guys, we are not pushovers. We are with you, but you better be with us. And that's why he's rattling cages among the friends, the allies first, and shoring up his alliances, American alliances with Israel, which was basically, we were told in Israel to fight Iran and all of Iran's proxies with one hand tied behind our back under Biden, in which he stopped sending weapons to us and wouldn't allow Prime Minister Netanyahu even to come to the White House for the entire war. I mean, this is insane. But President Trump is reversing all of that, and he's sending clear messages, not just to our friends, but our friends first, and then to Moscow, Tehran, and Beijing. And that's why this novel, I think, is really timely, because it imagines, what if we don't get this right? What if Beijing is about to strike in multiple directions and we are blindsided?
Joel Rosenberg, we got to leave it there, sadly. I wanted to touch on, actually, can you stick with us for one more second? Because I want to ask you about the Trump administration's moves against these domestic groups that are supporting Hamas and deportations. More with Joel Rosenberg, author of The Beijing Betrayal, coming up in just a moment at 6:44. We continue with Joel Rosenberg here, New York Times bestselling author. His book is The Beijing Betrayal. We just spoke quite a bit about China and about Trump administration's foreign policy stance. I would love for you to comment, though, on the latest move here from the Trump administration, canceling $400 million in grants to Columbia University because they have sat back and allowed pro-Hamas, anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, let's just call it what it is, because they are just absolutely terrorizing Jewish students on campus there. It has nothing to do with the state of Israel. It has to do with the fact that they're Jews. It punished them, $400 million in grants, and also the arrest of a leader of these protest groups, and he's now set for deportation. I'd love for you to comment on that and how, if this is an important signal that's sent not only to our allies but also to our enemies.
Thank God common sense has come back to America. Oh, my gosh. Finally, cutting $400 million to Columbia University is couldn't happen to a nicer group of people. The Columbia University leadership, they have created a toxic, violent environment. They are letting the inmates run the asylum, and for all the, these people are smart up there, but they are not wise, they are not lawful, and they are not kind or compassionate to their own students. These are students that are paying money to attend one of the finest universities, admittedly, in the world, but it has gone crazy up there, and this is just the first signal. Not only the cutting of the funds, federal funds, but then, yes, this arrest and deportation of basically a violent, or at least let's say a terror leader. Now,
Yes.
Has he been violent? No, but he is terrorizing the students, and it's not just the Jewish students. Although, as someone who's Jewish, I'm an evangelical, but as a Jewish person, as an Israeli, thank God that somebody is standing up for true justice in this country. But it's other students too who are terrorized because they don't know. Are they allowed to be friends with a Jewish person? Are they allowed to have lunch with a Jewish person? I mean, it's intimidation at every level. But this will be a message that is sent through all the Ivy League and every university and every community in the United States. Thank God, finally.
Amen. Well said. Joe Rosenberg, way to leave it there. Joe Rosenberg, All Israel News. The book is The Beijing Betrayal. Check it out. Thank you, sir. It's 6:50.